You were in Dollar
Dollar
Tree
for a
and they had
10-ounce bottle.
Louisiana hot sauce, Louisiana brand hot sauce from Bruce Foods in New Iberia, Louisiana. Yeah, that's a famous one. Did you get it?
I'm not. I don't season stuff too much. I thought
Yeah.
about it, but I think you put it on about everything, don't you? But
Yeah, it's the Louisiana brand is very mild. Very
but
mild.
I just happened to notice it in there. It was a dollar for a 10-ounce bottle. I might pick one up one day just to.
That's a good price. That's we get that price around here. Tabasco is another mild, and that's very vinegar. You know, that's I guess that's the world class or the world famous hot sauce Tabasco.
We have one here that's very popular. It's called Texas Pete.
Oh yeah, we get that.
And it's in every restaurant, barbecue restaurant, just about everywhere. But it's ubiquitous, I think you would say, in this area.
Mild, extremely mild. Now we're looking at Jim Beam today. I did a solo review of that, but it just didn't seem to have the right character out of that little 100 milliliter plastic bottle. I mean, what was inside the bottle was fine. And I know these companies have researched that to the hilt, and that plastic bottle is not going to impact the flavor in most cases. But there's something about the glass, the attractive glass. So I paid $13.99 plus tax for this 750 milliliter. They've rebranded it. Well, they've updated the look. Now it has a black cap and neck, and it always had a white cap and neck. Then they show the Beam family on the side.
Yeah, perception is reality, and if you feel better drinking it, it's fine. Because they've done many tests with people. A cheap wine in a nice glass is going to always to them taste better than a cheap wine in a paper cup. The presentation affects the mind, and so it's fine. I've just got a small, I drunk about half of it. This is a little 200 milliliter. Where's the no dang, just that?
There's nothing like the thud of plastic, is there?
This is the plastic thud. I should get my cowbell out. I should have a prop. I got a cowbell, but maybe next time. But
oh, I mean, I can't blame people for going with the value. I was tempted. I almost got the 100 milliliter at Walmart because it was $1.97. But I figured, this thing here is going to last years probably, or at least a year, and I can use it to. Sorry, I want to apologize for the Kansas City Southern Railroad with their eastbound freight train. No, but all these different taste challenges that I could do with it, it won't be a waste, I don't think. We've both tried this before, and we had interesting, I guess you'd say, at least to ourselves, impressions of it. And you did a pretty good amount of research. I want to welcome William Kepley from North Carolina. I'm with Louisiana Beer Reviews, but sometimes I do wine and liquor. And so you did some research, I believe.
One thing I did was in North Carolina, we have controlled ABC stores.
Yeah.
But the prices on this item with some of its main rivals is pretty interesting. Here, I guess, probably for most people, the standard size bottle would probably be the 750 milliliter bottle.
Yeah.
Jim Beam is $17.95. Evan Williams, which would be a main competitor, number 2 ranked bourbon, is $13.95, $4 cheaper. Whereas Jack Daniels is $26.95, considerably more expensive than the other two. Now, in other states, this may vary, but the ratio of the price difference will probably be pretty much the same. So
you're saying that the Jack Daniels was the highest, the Beam was in the middle, and the Evan Williams was much lower.
Yeah, like I say, this and like I say, the prices in your state might be different, but the ratio of difference between the products is probably going to be pretty much the same. But that's, I mean, Jack Daniels is basically twice the price of Evan Williams. And then Jim Beam slots somewhere in the middle between those two. So, and these are all.
I noticed that the Evan Williams green label here is $9.99 at some stores right now.
Yeah, it's a very big value price leader.
Hold on a second. I hit the wrong website. You know what website that is. I'm trying to get to Beam-Suntory. I'm gonna have a little trouble. You get the Evan Williams. What did you say the price was for Evan Williams?
$13.95 for a 750.
I think it's $11.95 here at certain stores now.
The Beam here is.
I'm sorry, $9.99 for the green label. I got mine for $13.99. Not bad, huh?
Not bad at all. I noticed in a couple of days ago, I was in the ABC store. They have one now for no extra money. You can get 2 rocks glasses with a Jim Beam. Same price, side by side on the shelf.
I've seen that package at Walmart.
And they look like pretty nice rocks glasses. I said, well, heck, if it's free, it'd be a fool not to take the free glasses if it's the same price. They were side by side.
Yeah, I'd have done that too. I want to click on the Beam website. Now, interestingly, if you get on the Jim Beam website, they don't refer at all in any way to the Beam Choice, Jim Beam Choice.
That's the green bottle, I believe.
Yeah, Beam's Choice. But on the Beam-Suntory label, it's listed right here, and they even have a locator tool to tell you where you can find it, which I noticed was very common in your area, but it's not sold in mine at all. There's
many variations. There's a Devil's Cut. There's a Double Oak, which is actually after 4 years, they take it out and put it in a new char barrel.
I noticed that the Beam's Choice years instead of this one, which is 4 years. And that Beam's Choice is charcoal filtered, they said. So I don't know a lot about it.
It's been on sale here. They have monthly specials. You can look online in North Carolina, but where in every store it's the same. But they do have monthly specials.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have no such setup here, with a state liquor store, but you still might get more than we get, as far as brand availability.
Yeah, every state has its pros and cons. There's things I'd like to get I can't get, and I'm sure other people, we maybe have stuff that they don't get. So it's just the problem in North Carolina is they will special order, but you have to buy a case.
Yeah, I made a special order for an alcohol brand the other day, and I was allowed to buy a single bottle, so that was very convenient.
I can cross over into South Carolina, and they will order me a single bottle.
Now, this company supposedly was not too far from you. This company was supposedly founded in 1795, maybe more like around 1795, but doesn't matter. One of the BIM German immigrants came over and started distilling, right? Beam in English.
Yeah,
Beam or Beam in English.
There's probably no product made that they tread on their history more than whiskey and bourbon. It's all about the history of it. I mean, it's just like it's wrapped in the American flag, and the only thing missing is the mom, baby, and apple pie. When you look at these websites, that is a major, and I think that's why these companies are so lucrative to the big conglomerates. You can't fake history. Like Suntory purchased Jim Beam. It cost them $16 billion. That's B with a billion. $1 billion. All of these now are, you see these distilleries in rustic, beautiful Kentucky, backwoods, but they're all owned by conglomerates. there's sort of a dichotomy there. Another Japanese company, Kirin, owns Four Roses.
Correct.
So, it sets, like I said, it sets up an interesting juxtaposition between the distilleries and the actual ownership of these companies. And there has been some friction between Suntory and Jim Beam as they're working out this relationship. You have a clash of cultures, a clash of business philosophies, and it hasn't been easy sledding so far. But I'm sure, they'll eventually work it out. But, there comes a price with these huge mergers and acquisitions. It doesn't always go that smoothly. And, sometimes the results are different than what they had anticipated.
You're right. It doesn't always work out. But in this case, it probably will. Well, I guess we better crack it open. I haven't opened this bottle, but here we go. I have some other ones I need to address. The one I need to address really is that Old Crow. I mean, that just, I keep saying later, but then later's not happening.
In my young journey through this spirits world, I prefer the smaller bottles because I can try more different things. I'm not a volume drinker, so. But if I see something really cheap, like I saw a Heaven Hill Old Style bourbon for $7.95 for $7.50, I bought that.
Yeah, it's hard to pass up that kind of deal. That says along with. It says, I'm looking at the website, along with corn, rye, malted barley, water, thyme, and pride. Yeah. Take a sip, you'll know what we mean. And they talk about the No family, right? Fred No, his father, Booker No, and along, they're related. They are Beams, but the maternal name. They talking about character, aroma, oaky, vanilla, spicy backdrop. I like that glass, but I don't have one like that. Flavor, medium bodied, mellow, hints of caramel and vanilla. And then they're talking about taste. Let's see. Now they have this little chart, right, for the taste.
Yeah, I saw that. It's like a wheel, I believe.
Yeah. Oak, fruit, char, sweet, grain. And this particular one is heavy in the grain and oak, and not as heavy in the char and the sweet. It's more into the grainy oak side, but it's pretty centered. They got the little centered, and I guess all the different variants, they'll have that little wheel, and then they have the mixed strengths that you can make with it. So now they don't use the same method as the Tennessee, dripping it through that charcoal, but they age it in charred oak barrels.
There are quite a few bourbons that are charcoal filtered, but it's done pre-bottling, not pre-barrel. So, yeah. I mean, there's so many you can get. I mean, you can see these online discussions about, for instance, is Jack Daniel's actually a bourbon? I mean, that is like talking politics and religion.
Yeah, the United States, Canada, and Mexico say yes, but the state of Tennessee says absolutely no.
NAFTA says yes, but there is nothing. The only thing I'll add about that is there's nothing that prevented them tomorrow from putting on their bottle that it's a bourbon.
Oh.
There's nothing in the tax and trade guidelines that prevent them from doing that.
But they prefer but for marketing reasons, it's to their advantage to call it Tennessee whiskey.
The running joke is they would rather be the #1 Tennessee whiskey in the world than the #2 bourbon behind Jim Beam. So they do have a vested interest in, and they paid off the legislature 3 years ago in I think it was 2013. Although that now has become under a whole other issue, is Diageo is contesting that. So I mean, there's just so many stories in this bourbon whiskey world about legal stuff, and it's can be a tangled mess at times.
Before we start, I have this other one I want to get to one day. You might have seen it.
I drank some of that a couple of days ago. I bought two minis for $1.50.
That's a historic brand. And then I have this one that I picked up for a pretty low price, I thought. And they've all been bought out, of course, but this is so common, these independent companies. And like you say, it's a magnet, because if they're successful, they attract buyouts.
You mentioned the early times. The early times they make the mint juleps at the Kentucky Derby with it.
And that
early times.
I didn't know that. Comments real fast, and then we can start on the smelling and the tasting. And I think I posted links to Beam-Suntory and Jim Beam, but anybody can look that up. It's very easy to do. Let's see. John Red Barley says, I like Frank's Red Hot and kind of like plastic 40-ounce bottles versus glass. Yes, that's been the complaint there. It's not the liquid itself, it's the cachet of it. Darrell Lee says, cheers, y'all. John O'Neill says, I enjoy Jim Beam. I must say I have been drinking a lot of Canadian Club lately. I bought some Canadian Club Classic 12, which I'm about to get into now. Ron, you and William are the best. Thank you, John. I'd love to join you guys someday. You can join us. Keep up the great work of these videos. On my way back from Charlotte last weekend with a mother load of Schlitz beer. Props to William for the Colt 45 double malt suggestion. Yeah. And let's see, let me take care of some little house cleaning issues here. Drinking some Canadian Club Classic 12. Okay. All right, so let's get on with this. You can go with the aroma. Well, we can see the appearance. It's a lighter shade of amber compared to those two 40-year-old bottles of bourbon that I had. The Old Crow Bonded and the Wild Turkey 101.
A couple of nights ago, I did a side-by-side between this and the Old Crow, which is basically the same mash bill, aged 1 year less, and they were indistinguishable as far as the color. If anything, this might be just a tad different, but like I say, it was pretty much a wash. And I mentioned about the mash bill on these. The mash bill on this is 77% corn, 13 rye, and the remainder 10% malted barley. So the corn in this is a little bit higher than some of the other. Evan Williams is a 75, 13, 12 split. So there's a slight little bit more corn in this one than some of the other bourbons. And a little less rye, which may be a little less of a spicy note in it. But the mash bill is sort of like sports statistics, like the player is 6'5", 250, runs a 4.5 40. But the mash bill is basically you can gather quite a bit of information by just seeing what the mash bill is on these, i.e. the recipe.
And didn't I read this one uses the sour mash process that they use carryover from the previous?
You know, the sour mash process is sort of like the corollary in beer of the krausening, where they add a second mixture to reignite the fermentation process along the way. So
right.
it's
right. Budweiser does the krausening or krausening, and they used to do that with Holloman's Old Style, but I think that was, they don't tout that anymore. They don't make that claim. What do you get? So we got a lighter amber, not super dark. What are you getting on the aroma?
Pretty much mirrors what the website. It is an oaky vanilla. But also I'm picking up maybe more than a little bit of the alcohol itself, sort of medicinal alcohol. It's pretty strong in this small glass. It may be different in like a Glencairn or one of the New Orleans glasses or something, but this one you can still detect and taste a pretty strong alcohol content in it.
How many ounces would you say that glass is?
This one is about probably 1 1/4, right? It's just a little bit over the line.
Yeah, mine is just a regular rocks glass. I don't know the size. I fit about guess it must be 6 to 8 ounces. I fit a good amount of beer in it.
But I got this at Walmart. It's nice and sturdy. It's a very, a strong, but and I sort of like to know how much I put in it. Just just for my own curiosity. But it is an oaky vanilla. But like I said, you can still take that alcohol in it.
I'm picking that up too. It might turn some people off, the strong oak and vanilla. And I was reading this morning because it was raining. I thought I would be cutting my grass today. That turned out to be a wash because of water from the sky. I have to do that tomorrow. They were saying, I was reading these forums where people talk about different types of whiskey, and one guy was saying, you know, he was talking about what's all this hate for blended whiskeys. He said, I find that they're more mellower than the bourbon. And he was saying he has a girlfriend and she complains that the bourbon is too harsh, and she preferred the blended whiskeys. And the guy was saying, I know it's an 80-20 blend, but I didn't really care. He said he didn't really care as long as it tasted good. So I thought that was an interesting, I'm just standing up for, I thought that was an interesting commentary, because usually that's sort of like a sacrilegious thing for somebody to say.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that if you like it. I mean, to each his own, as far as I'm concerned. You know, I'm new into this. I don't have any prejudice for against any of these. So, you know, I have an open mind with everything, and I take the cap off, basically.
Yeah, me too. And I certainly have no horse in the race. So I could not be accused of showing favoritism. I mean, unless I was doing Louisiana brands, but how many of those exist, or is anybody even aware of? I know they had some Louisiana distilled beverages, whiskey or something made down here, but Walmart was having it on closeout.
And there are many who think it's sacrilegious to cut the whiskey. I've read though on taste test or tastings that many of the master distillers will cut it a little bit because it can bring out additional flavors. So you know what? So who am I to argue with them? They've forgotten more about bourbon than I'll ever know. So I mean, keep an open mind and do what you want to. I mean, there are no rules here. You know, and I tried cutting a few of mine with a little bit of distilled water. Sometimes I thought it was it detracted. Sometimes I thought it was a slight improvement. But that's the fun part about it. Just sort of, you know, do your own experimentation and explore what you like.
I can't argue with that. So let's go with the taste. I was kind of sipping ahead a little bit anyway. I noticed something with this bourbon whiskey that to me is distinct. And you know what I'm going to say, but you go first.
Yeah, I'll do a cheer to bringing home another NCAA championship to the state of North Carolina. Do a little bragging.
Cheers to that, because if they make it to the final two, that'll help my bracket, because I've got North Carolina versus Gonzaga in the bracket. And so that would help me look like I knew what I was talking about.
1981, there have been 26 North Carolina teams in the Final Four. And 10 national championships. So cheers.
John says, do you guys think that Jim Beam is superior to Jack Daniels? I find that Jim Beam is much smoother and doesn't have that weird, dare I say, kerosene finish. John, I have not noticed a superiority one to the other. With my limited experience, I just noticed differences. Sort of like different automobile brands.
With this, I noticed a pretty strong initial sweetness on the tongue when you first sip it.
Carol Kazrowski says, what about Four Roses? Haven't tried it yet, but I heard it's a better bourbon. Someone gave me a sample of Four Roses, a special edition 10-year aged in a vial. Well, and he gave me a Pappy Van Winkle. Well, I gotta say, those were I haven't seen anything as good as those, but I'm not out here to go pay $150 per bottle. Sorry, but those were dynamite. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You said a sweetness.
Initial. This is quite. One thing is, I haven't had anything to eat or drink today. I just got off work, so I have basically as neutral a palate as I'm ever going to have right now.
Right.
And this does taste a bit different than it has previously. I think it tastes better to me now. You know, there's so many variables involved when drinking beverages.
And this,
I like the sweetness initially, pretty smooth, a pretty short finish. And it had, to me, it has the basic bourbon, vanilla, caramel flavors. I couldn't detect any of the more obscure ones that more seasoned enthusiasts can. But I enjoyed it. I really like it better now than I did before.
yeah, I'm still picking up that greenwood and that peat moss, moldy peat moss thing, and I don't know what that's come from. And I'm not saying that when I first did the video out of the small bottle, I wasn't saying that as a criticism, but it's something distinct. It's strange. It's just, I haven't noticed that in any other whiskey or bourbon that I've tried, that peat moss or moldy. Like my grandfather used to have a bomb shelter, and he kept old potatoes down in there because it's always cool down there in Baton Rouge, and that air in there had that moldy smell. And this reminds me of it. And in the world of beer, I picked that up with Abbott Ale and some of these other British ales that I never pick up in American ales, you know. But sweet, yes. That moldy thing, yes. The evergreen, yes. Medium bodied, yes. Like they're saying. A short finish, like you said, a short, dry finish. The taste is sweet, but the finish is dry. Right. To me, now some people might say, oh, hell, that's just a mass-produced $20 or less bottle. I would never drink something garbage like that, you know, because you have like the beer snobs, and then you have the whiskey snobs and the wine snob. That may be your preference, and I can understand your viewpoint, but I don't agree with it. I think this is well made. It might be mass-produced, but I don't think it's trash in any kind of way, shape, form, or fashion. I can tell this thing is produced to scientific execution and standards of the highest order. And I've said that with beer, and I've said that with Budweiser, and that set off firestorms. But I do believe that's the case with Budweiser. Well, I better not go down that road, because that starts a whole lot of.
It's the Budweiser of bourbon.
Oh boy,
there are a lot of parallels between their positioning in the marketplace. There's, you know, their high visibility, high marketing.
Yeah.
But this taste, it's funny because when I did the side by side between this and the Old Crow, to me this tastes better in isolation than it did when I did some side by side.
Did you have a preference when you did those two?
I actually didn't have a preference between those two.
I'll be right back. Keep talking. I wanted to see if the ice cubes would do anything. You know, these companies, they make a big emphasis on ice cubes. If you notice, they're not saying you got to do it, but every other photo is an ice cube, and it's like, it must be a reason, right? And with the beer companies, they're saying Budweiser ice cold and all. So I mean, they know how it should be done, right? I mean, as far as their product.
Yeah. On the rocks is sort of a. How many times have you heard that in a whiskey? We're on the rocks. But
million times. Do I like drinking them neat? Yes, because I think you get a really good experience. But I did an experiment this morning. That video is not posted yet. I did a gin, room temperature, and then I did it on the rocks, and I did change it a little bit, quite a bit. But let's see. The aroma, it seemed to bring out more vanilla in the flavor. You know, it's just like starting to be watered down. What do you expect? I mean, the ice is made out of water. I can see that people, like you say, want to cut it. They want to cut it. And
I did. I bought some. I think distilled water is the best thing for cutting it because that's pure water. It's been distilled.
This is just faucet water, so.
And but I cut the Old Crow a little bit. I didn't like it. I like the Old Crow neat. Where a couple of others I cut it, and I thought it did bring out a little bit of additional flavors. You know, a little more higher profile. But like I said, it's all fun for me. You know, it's you'll try it. Just try a couple of drops to begin with, and just adjust it. You know, as far as the cutting of it. But I really like this right now. Like I said, it seems it's hard to explain, but in isolation, this does taste better than it did when I did the side by side. And I cleansed my palate between, so I didn't like I was, taking them right one after the other. But sometimes you're surprised by things, and like I said, I try to keep an open mind because I don't have any skin in the game. I don't,
Enjoying it. John says, I couldn't find the Pappy Van Winkle, but I just bought the 2015 Southern Belle red wine, which the clerk at Cagney's Party Shop in Columbus, Georgia, assured me was aged in old Rip Van Winkle barrels. And then John says, William, Ron, classic, no, but John Sharon loved it. What do you think about it? I think people like different beers for different reasons. John picked up things in that I did not pick up. He compared it to Busch Signature Copper Lager, and I could not see any similarity at all. But yeah, I've always pulled for the Tar Heels, Daryl says, in basketball, but this year I got to go with the Cinderella Gamecocks. Hey, well, I just want my bracket to be right. I'm indifferent to who wins, although I would like to see Gonzaga win just since. Oh, boy. Hold on a second. Hello. Can I call you back? Because I'm about to get off this whiskey hangout. I'm going to call you back. All right. A former beer reviewer calling me.
That would be interesting if the two Carolinas met. South Carolina used to be in the ACC.
I remember that.
One year they went undefeated in the regular season, 14-0, but they lost an ACC tournament, and at that time there was only one NCAA bid for a conference. So they missed out. And a couple years later, that was one of their bone of contentions. They pulled out of the conference a few years later, but one of the reasons was the fact that they didn't like the way the tournament champion was at that time, like in 1973, NC State beat Maryland 103-100 in overtime. Maryland could have easily won a national championship that year, but they went to the NIT. So we live in a different time now for basketball as far as the seedings and like the ACC this year got 9 teams, which is probably about 7 more than they deserve based on the results. But anyway.
And I remember with my experience growing up, South Carolina was always one of those famous independent teams, in football and basketball.
But when they pulled out, Frank McGuire was the coach who led North Carolina to a national championship in 1957.
Oh, yeah. And then didn't he lead a
lot of New Yorkers.
Didn't he lead Marquette to a national championship in 1977? Or maybe
that was Al McGuire.
Oh, Al McGuire, okay.
They beat North Carolina that year, but I remember in '86 LSU made the Final Four as an 11th.
Bob Knight made an ugly comment that he apologized for later on.
Yeah, but that was Dale Brown's best coaching job by far. That team they were just like middle of the road, I think, in their own conference, but they caught fire at the end of and made a run all, and nobody could name one of the players off of that. Ricky Blanton was one, I think, the center.
No.
That's probably the only one I can mention.
Right. I remember we heard that name so much on TV that my father, for years after, would say, he would make comments and say, you have blatant disregard for my feelings. I say, no, you mean blatant. He got so used to saying blatant. But I remember Bob Knight said, when I saw Dale Brown walk on the court and lean against that goalpost, I knew we couldn't lose. But that was an ugly comment to make,
I think I'll take another. See if sip 2 matches sip 1 here.
Okay. All right, enough sports talk. I got to call my friend back, and then I got to go finish doing my walking. People might say, what's your complaint about Jim Beam? Like, what are the problems with it? Honestly, to wrap this up, I don't see any problems. Is it the greatest bourbon in the world? Don't ask me that question. That'd be like asking a child what's their favorite world history question, asking a 3-year-old that, you know, so their favorite world history topic. So to me, it's fine, but what do I know for bourbon and whiskey? Not a whole lot. Amateur, it seems perfect to me. Okay, and that's all I got to say about it. Would I buy it again? Hypothetically, yes. What do you say, William?
The second sip is a tad less sweeter than the first sip, but the profile is pretty much the same. Would I buy it again? I probably would. I have done a side by side between this and the Evan Williams. I probably would go with the EW based strictly on price. At my stage of undevelopment in the whiskey world, as far as the tasting, I couldn't detect much of a difference. So until I'm going to opt for the cheaper one. That's my honest opinion.
So all things being equal, you just said it was basically a tie.
I would, and I would opt for the cheaper one. If there comes a time when I develop more of a sharpened palate, I might choose the other. But right now, I would go for the less expensive one.
Same thing with Jack Daniels. People say, "What's the problem with that? What's the problem with that?" I say, "No problem, except I don't like buying a name. I want to drink the whiskey. I can't drink the name."
Yeah, Beam is priced more in line. I think the Jack Daniels is just darn too expensive. It's like a Corona beer to me.
But that's fine for the company, because a lot of people, they want that name and they want people to know that they've got it. And I can't, you know, go against that. That's fine. Okay. When it comes to buying beer, 99 out of 100 times I do not buy Budweiser, because I can get substitute products that are, and they're extremely cheaper. Like, for instance, Milwaukee's Best Lager. Okay, there's a good example. I can get a 30-pack for $17 even plus tax. You know what I'm going to go with.
I think that's probably now the benchmark in budget beer, bang for the buck. The Milwaukee's Best Lager. I could drink that on a daily basis and be perfectly happy with it.
I never get tired of it.
It makes you wonder why it wasn't 4.8 to begin with, why they were middling down with that 4.3 level along with Busch. You need to do something to separate yourself from the competition. This was long overdue.
It's strange. You know, Miller had a lot of problems because they had been bought out in 1966. And that's so common in the beer, wine, and liquor world. So if people think that's something unusual, they don't know the business. And the owners of Miller, which was Philip Morris until just last year, really, honestly. It was really Philip Morris all along.
Based in Winston-Salem, NC.
Even when Miller was bought out by SAB, Philip Morris was still the major stockholder. They owned 27% of the company, but they had more stock than anyone else. And in fact, they're called Altria today, right? They had to approve the sale, but the thing about them was their main concern was profit. Okay, well, I understand that. It was the straw that stirred the drink from 1966. Well, they bought it in 1970, okay, because they bought it from a holding company, until 2016. The straw that stirred the drink was Miller Lite. So that was their focus. Okay, fine. Milwaukee's Best was an afterthought, right? But after Molson Coors bought Miller, I think they started realizing, they probably had been studying it for a long time, right? They could see that Milwaukee's Best was untapped potential. So why let it languish, like you said, at 4.3 when it could burst onto the scene at 4.8?
Yeah, when you got a value price beer and you call it premium, people are not going to believe that. But when you have a nice package that says lager in bold print, that's an honest assessment. I mean, to me, this is just basic marketing. And why it took them for so long to position that beer as it is now, I don't know, but I'm glad that Molson Coors is now calling the shots. I've noticed. I mean, just a simple, basic difference is they updated Ham's website. If you go to these websites that are 5 years old and look like they was done by somebody in junior high school, it doesn't speak well. He said, if they don't care about the product, why should I?
But when you get on a company like,
they make it more professional and presentable, to me, that's a bonus. Side note, a lot of the beer companies could take some notes from the whiskey about how to market their products online.
oh,
It's a joke how much better the whiskey does than beer in this area. That's just my opinion.
you could say that for the wine. I have noticed that a lot of these wine websites are extensive with food pairings. And these beer companies, I don't mean in particular, but in general, like you're saying, they got a lot of work to do. Some can't even tell me what kind of hops are involved. And I don't know, but like you're saying, these whiskey sites, the Beam, the Jack Daniels, the Sazerac, Brown-Forman, Beam-Suntory, you could spend almost, I guess in a figurative sense, a lifetime researching these sites.
And it's so easy to find out what the mash bill is. It gets down like 77%, 13%, 10%. It's right there. You know what's in it. None of this vague, artificial, natural colors, natural flavors. You know what you're getting.
Yeah.
And so, but I've been impressed by the level of transparency among the whiskey companies. And, I mean, a lot of there's some puffery too when they talk about the history and all this kind of stuff. But they do present their products in a very good manner, I think.
Yeah. And so I guess I shouldn't have gone on too much of a rant about it, because I do like the beer websites, but just the overall impression that you get hard liquor websites is it does catch the eye. It's impressive.
And it did me because I'd never looked at the websites beforehand. I came in as a novice. So like I said, I had no preconceived notions, but I said, boy, they do a great job with their website. This is impressive.
Right. And you just get
the backdrop, which I had already learned about.
Right. Right. And you get the feeling that these are some serious people.
They are, and they care about their products. And it shows it soon.
And you talk about the puffery. Well, we understand that there's puffery and glittering generalities and all of that stuff. So, but you got to look beyond that if you have enough discernment.
Yeah.
Past that.
The wheat from the chaff separation.
Yeah, you separate the wheat from the chaff. Now let's see a few more comments, and that'll be it for the comments, and then we'll wrap it up. Boy, you gotta separate the wheat from the chaff when you look at these online comments. That's for sure. John says Jim Beam, honey-like quality in the finish. Much smoother than most whiskeys other than Canadian Club, which has become my new favorite. Great examination. Cheers. Thank you. Carol says Woodford Reserve is, in my opinion, smoother but more expensive, unfortunately. Yeah. You know what? You get what you pay for, right? Milwaukee's Best Lager. Love it. Yeah. Much better than the Milwaukee's Best Premium, in my opinion. I don't think it's much better. I think, but it is better. Fantastic job. Craig Swinson says Milwaukee's Best Lager, my favorite regular beer. Yeah, it's it changed my whole regimen in some ways. Same with the Ice House. I think the new reformulation is much smoother. Now I cannot go along with that. It's too hard. It's too strong for me. 6.9 is not working. 5.5 worked well. Craig says, I disagree. The old Ice House 5.5 is perfect. I just can't handle 6.9. And that's not a reflection on the beer. It's just me. I'm not strong enough. I don't think it was bad. Okay, and then they go on and on. They're going on about it. Okay, so to wrap this up, and then I got to call my friend back. Any last comments about it? I'm fine. Do you find there's any negatives associated with it? Because I just, for the life of me, cannot find any.
No, speaking as a novice, no. I don't find any negatives to it. If you're comfortable with the price point, you like it, buy it. I mean, it's the #1 bourbon in the world, and so
it didn't get there being bad.
No, it did. You know, you can quibble about different things, and I have read stuff online that say that if this product was introduced now, it would be a flop.
Why is that?
Because that it's all based on the marketing, the hype, and everything like this. That if you just view it as the product itself, it wouldn't be successful. I don't know if that to be the fact or not, but it's here and it's not going anywhere. And if you drink it and you like it and you're comfortable, like I say, with the price point, so be it.
I'm like you. I'm going to look at the price point. Okay. I've never had Evan Williams. Okay. So if I try Evan Williams and it's as good as Jim Beam, but it's $4 a bottle cheaper, common sense will tell you where I'm going. Times I showed you, that was $8.99 for that bottle. Same size as this. So, hey, it's not a bourbon, but in some states or some parts of the world, apparently it's marketed as a bourbon. So maybe it is. Okay, but anyway, let's see, what was I going to say? Jim Beam, early times. Oh, I'm going to look at those factors. Now, the price is going to make a big difference. The Old Crow. Now, that was $10.99 for the bottle, so it's sort of like in between like your Evan Williams and your, well, I guess it's on.
The Old Crow makes a good mixer. Old Crow and Dr. Pepper. I had one last night. I thought it was excellent. old Dr. Crow.
Old Dr. Crow.
I've read quite a bit online that it does make a pretty darn good mixer, and I got a 1 liter bottle of it for $8.99. So, and it is the same mash bill as the Jim Beam. It's just aged 1 year less.
That's incredible.
So if anybody,
that's incredible. $8.99 for a 1 liter bottle.
Same mash bill. It's just aged 1 year less, and you might actually like it just as much as the Jim Beam. So that's another avenue you could explore.
I got a Kentucky straight bourbon, 1 liter bottle, Kentucky Tavern. So I have to look at that one day. That's a very old brand. That's another story. But anyway, marketing, maybe we don't know what we're talking about. We sure don't claim to know what we're talking about. If somebody challenged me and said, who makes you an expert? I would say no one makes me an expert. I don't even claim to be one.
I'm just an enthusiast, I guess would be the, simply. I like to drink it. I like to talk about it, and that's the bottom line. And
that's as far as it goes. All right. Well, thank you, folks. So next time, who knows? I don't know what we're going to look at next time, but we got Yingling Light coming up in April, so that should be interesting. Not to mention Yingling Black and Tan. All right. Thanks. Take care, everybody. Have a safe weekend.